News for residents of Johannesburg. The city has confirmed repairs on the M2 highway will be completed by the end of October. Several bridges, as you know, were closed in March this year due to severe wear and tear. Now, at the time, Mayor Herman Mashaba said there was serious concern for the safety of motorists using the highway. So to give us an update on the situation, I'm joined in studio by Siyabonga Genu, who is the head of infrastructure development at the Johannesburg Roads Agency. Good to see you, Siyabonga. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. I'm going to start off with the obvious question. Seeing now the resignation of Mayor Herman Mashaba, how does this all make you feel? Because I know he spearheaded this very much so and was quite actively involved in these repairs as well.
Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously, personally, I'm not really involved in the political decision-making processes. But obviously, the experience we had with, Executive Mayor Mashaba has been good. He has shown a lot of commitment, in particular supporting us from an infrastructure upgrade and development point of view. So we really enjoyed working with him. But, I can't comment further. I'm not sure what happens
and I can understand
at that level. Yeah.
It's certainly not your level, but it is good to hear about his involvement and interaction on this particular project. He will be there until the end of November, though. So let's talk about timelines. So we say that repairs will end now in October, and it'll be open sometime in November. So perhaps you can give us clarity on that. Sure.
So, I mean, as you've indicated in your introduction, we had to close the M2 beginning of this year due to structural failures on Kazeni and Salbe Bridge. So to date, we've completed the Kazeni Bridge. So all the repairs on Kazeni have been completed. We're busy finalizing the last part of Salbe Bridge. So we are planning to finish all of the works by the 30th of October this month. Our initial planned date was the 31st. So we'd have a formal sort of ribbon cutting, or we're informing the public that the works have been completed. Then we'll then use the weekend to do all the cleanup works just to make sure that the highway is now safe for motorists to use. And we're hoping that on the 4th of November, which will be a Monday, will allow the first vehicle to eventually use the M2.
Okay, so the 4th of November. Some people were thinking the 1st of November, but the date that you are announcing is the 4th of November.
Which is a Monday, yeah.
A Monday morning peak hour traffic. Is that a good idea? Don't you think you should rather do it on like a Sunday or something?
Look, we prefer to open up. Look, we might have some vehicles already using it on Sunday evening, but we prefer to do the cleanup work and removal of the barriers over the weekend because we have lesser traffic over the weekend. If you remember, it took us about 48 hours to close the M2. So we anticipate that we'll need roughly another 48 hours or more to open it up because of the process of unpacking all the barriers. So we think Monday is probably a better day for us to allow the vehicles to use the M2. It might be a staggered approach. We might not be able to allow all the parts of the M2 to be used at the same time. We might allow maybe east-west direction on the first day, and then the following day we should have the entire M2 open.
Okay, so these are all still maybes, and you'll keep us updated though, so that people know and they can plan their routes before this.
No, look, definitely we can say on Monday the 4th, the M2 will be open to traffic.
But where exactly?
That's correct. Where exactly we'll be able to communicate further closer to time.
The price tag, let's go there, because I know that the budgeted amount was 160 million rand for the whole project. Yeah. What's the final bill looking like now?
Look, it's over 160 million rand as we stand now. Obviously, we still have the last 2 weeks to finish up the outstanding works. So at this point in time, I'm unable to say exactly how much it's going to be. We might end up at 171 million rand, 175 million rand, but it's over 160 million rand.
Okay, so this is over budget. But if we look to how bad the wear and tear was on this bridge, what were we looking at? I mean, how devastating could it have been to motorists if this wasn't closed off and repaired in the manner that it was?
Look, from an engineering point of view, both bridges had gone beyond failure. So it was a matter of time when they would collapse. So, I mean, a structural bridge is designed to perform in a certain way. And if certain failures happen, you won't tell when it will collapse. So I think what we were expecting was that you basically experience a shear failure. So a shear failure is more like breaking your leg. You know, if you walk into a hole, your leg will just snap. So most of the columns, especially on Salbe Bridge, had gone beyond structural failure. So it was a matter of time when they will collapse. And unfortunately, we couldn't tell because it's a shear failure, so we couldn't tell exactly when. And that's why we advise the city that we really need to close the M2 before something happens.
That's frightening. I mean, just the thought of driving over that bridge and it collapsing while you're driving over. I mean, it would have been a disaster on another level. And I mean, we've seen visuals actually coming through and some photographs that you guys have supplied us with of the renovation project. And we've seen horrific patchwork, holes in the bridges. How is it allowed to get to this position?
Well, look, I think it's difficult to say, but I mean, most of these bridges are older than 50 years. They are meant to give us performance of about 100 years, but you need to do routine maintenance in between. And I think what we've experienced in the city of Joburg is obviously the significant growth in traffic due to economic development. And something that I don't think back in the 60s when the bridges were designed, anyone envisaged that the traffic volumes will grow as fast as they have. I mean, we've been experiencing more than 10% per annum traffic growth. But coupled to that, I don't think our maintenance has been up to scratch. Not only on the bridges, but I think across the country, infrastructure-wise, whether it's roads, infrastructure. There's a lot of work that we need to do in terms of infrastructure maintenance. It's like buying your own vehicle. If you don't maintain it, it's not going to give you the 5-year lifespan it's meant to. Otherwise, it will fall apart.
Whose responsibility is it to maintain that this infrastructure, these roads, are kept intact?
Look, it's government. I mean, in the case of the cities, the city of Joburg, we are the agents responsible for that. But obviously because of resource constraints, in particular capital budget to maintain some of these infrastructure is very limited. With the issues currently that we are facing, lack of economic growth, it's difficult for government and municipalities to keep up with infrastructure maintenance and infrastructure development. I heard in your earlier introduction complaining about potholes in the west of Johannesburg. So those are the signals that government doesn't have enough money to keep up with economic growth and also maintaining of infrastructure. Yeah. And the sad thing is that if you don't maintain, it falls apart, and when you have to repair it, it costs you more than it should have if you had maintained it.
Well, these are sobering thoughts and sobering words, and I do hope that, coming from your mouth and here on a national platform, it'll be heard by the relevant authorities, because, I mean, the reality is traveling over a bridge, and you know how busy that bridge is. If that had to collapse during peak hour traffic, which is a scenario that could very possibly have happened here in Johannesburg, who knows what the bridges around the country look like? Sure.
Look, I mean, we've got more than 900 bridges across the city of Joburg. I think we've indicated before that a huge percentage of those bridges are in bad condition. I think it's about 94% of them are in bad conditions, and mainly it's because of the age, change in weather patterns. Before, like I said before, some of the infrastructure when it was designed back in the days, no one envisaged, all these changes from a climatic point of view, economic growth, traffic growth. So we've got the city has a lot of work to do in terms of catching up with both infrastructure development and infrastructure maintenance. Yeah.
Sure. Siyabonga, thanks very much for talking to us here on the program. He's the head of infrastructure development at the Johannesburg Roads Agency, and come the end of the month, the highway repairs will be completed. The 4th of November is the date that highway, the M2 highway here in Johannesburg, will be reopened. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. We've got Danny Kay and Cabello in studio after this. We'll tell you why in a short while. Stay tuned.